Well, a big show lined up for you today here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Cole off for the most part today. Feeling a little under the weather, I hear you are, Cole, as you're on the road down to Dutch Fork to call just an absolutely massive high school football game tonight. Burns at Dutch Fork. How you doing, pal?
Yeah, you can really tell. I definitely sick today, right? No, I mean, logistically, it didn't work out for us to do the show from down there. You would think that Dutch Fork, being a 5A school, Diesel has a better facility, but they really don't. The press box is pretty shoddy. So we are en route right now to Irmo, South Carolina, and here we go, man.
Well, hopefully you get down there a little safer than the East Carolina equipment truck on its way to San Antonio. They had a blowout on one of the front tires on the 18-wheeler. Ended up totaling the truck.
What?
Like, you look up the photo. I know you're driving.
No.
I don't know if there's anybody with you who can look up the photo for you.
I'll get him on that.
Yeah, have him look up the East Carolina equipment truck. Mm-hmm.
Blowout.
Yeah.
Really? This happened today, Diesel?
I believe so. I just saw the photo come across my Twitter within the last 25 minutes. So basically,
Lane would argue that with me driving, there's a possibility of that happening with us too, but that is not going to happen.
Basically, for those of you who haven't seen this photo, it peeled the left front of the cab of the truck apart like a tin can, like you put an M80 inside of a soup can. That's what happened to the front end of this truck. Now they ended up getting it off to the side of the road. They ended up getting a new tractor to haul the equipment all the way down to San Antonio. They made it there. Everything is going to be fine. But, man, I'm sure that had to be scary when something like that happens. But welcome into the show. It's Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Coming up in the very next segment, Chris Phillips of SEC Unfiltered going to join the show to try to make sense of this just absolute log jam, this mosh pit at the tippy top of the SEC when it comes to the SEC championship game. Got Smitty coming up at 4 o'clock on the show. Going to bring you back into that audio of Dan Scott from yesterday, the Frenemies segment. We can't call it Behind Enemy Lines when it's Dan Scott, so we call it Frenemies with Dan Scott, and a lot of other stuff to get to on the show today, Cole. But let's start with your picks for the high school playoff games and the action happening tonight. Again, you're on your way to Dutch Fork High School right now to call that Burns at Dutch Fork game. So let's start right there with that one, Cole. Burns at Dutch Fork, probably the biggest game in the state tonight. A lot of people would argue, yeah?
No, it definitely is, man. I'll tell you, Burns is going to have to play a perfect game, Diesel, in order to win. You can't go down there and turn the football over. You can't go down there and have personal fouls, self-inflicting wounds. You're going to have to play a near perfect game and really control time of possession and keep their offense on the sideline, Diesel. I believe 99% of people in the state would take Dutch Fork tonight. I don't know anybody that's picking Burns. Of course, we'd love to be proven wrong, but Dutch Fork, 9-time state champion. And, Rick Flair said it best, to be the man, you got to beat the man. So we'll see if it can be done. Ultimately, Burns has the talent to do it, Diesel. But when you talk about some of the problems Burns has had this year, they have been turnover happy. They've been interception happy. They've been known to throw a pick six here and there, which, as good as Dutch Fork is, they've only turned the football over 5 times this season on their offensive side of the football. And when you're going against a team like them, man, you cannot go down there and make mistakes. If you do, it'll be a quick bus right back because they will capitalize off of those turnovers. So hopefully the entire state is wrong and Burns can go down there and shock the world. It would be a huge upset. But, man, hey, that's why you play the game, right?
Yeah, for the majority of high school programs, you kind of get one or the other in most years. You get a good offense and a maybe kind of a weak defense or vice versa. Dutch Fork doesn't really seem to have that problem. They're just good across the board every single year. Some stars that are going to be on display in this game tonight.
College football, Division I athletes on both sides. I mean, we talk about Trey Segura all the time, but yesterday, Diesel, you and I talked about the kid at defensive end whose dad's on staff at South Carolina. He's committed to Michigan right now. I'm hearing a lot of traction that there could be a flip in the near future for him to flip to South Carolina. I don't know if that'll happen, but to your point, yes, there is a lot of talent on display, including him. He's like 6'4", 260. He's a big kid. Looks like a Division I athlete. They might need to check his age to see if, he's eligible for high school football right now anyways. But it's going to be extremely tough. There's going to be a lot of talent on the field tonight.
Does he wear a cape when he's out there? Because he sounds like Superman. It sounds like a really good player. Let's move to a game that's going to be just up the road from us tonight. Dorman hosting Ridgeview. How do you see this one going?
Diesel, this has the potential to be a sneaky good game. Most people, including myself, are picking Dorman because Dorman's one of the best teams I've seen this season. However, you go look at Ridgeview, what they've done this season, battling through adversity. Now on their third-string quarterback, Ridgeview is. And you go look at that schedule, Diesel. There's two games in particular that will kind of make you go, that's the team we just talked about, and Northwestern, maybe the best team in Division II. Both of those games that Ridgeview played, they lost by one touchdown. Ridgeview lost to Dutch Fork by a touchdown. Ridgeview lost to Northwestern by a touchdown. Two arguably the best teams in the state of South Carolina. So this is a battle-tested team in Ridgeview. It's not like they haven't played anybody. I'm still leaning Dorman, and Dorman's going to be my pick tonight. But Ridgeview, I do believe, has the horses, the speed on the outside. I was talking to a coach at Northwestern this morning, and he said they've got a lot of speed, especially defensively. So I'm going with the Dorman Cavaliers, but if you do look at this game and see it tied at the end of the third quarter tonight, don't be surprised because this is a Ridgeview team that feels like they have one of their best teams in quite some time.
Cole, I'm going to put a question in the back of your mind. I'm going to give you some time to think about it, but at the end, I'm going to ask you, of these teams that are playing on the road tonight, who is the best road team out of these matchups that you think has a really good chance to win this game on the road? By the way, JB on the stream says, I remember when Burns was Dutch Fork. He says he'll also be listening to the game. So, hey, you got one. That's awesome. You got one that's going to be listening.
We appreciate it. And
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, to his point, at one time they were the class of the state, right, under Bobby Bentley. And, Dutch Fork, what Tom Knotts has done there, Diesel. I mean, I know Burns fans and Gaffney fans aren't happy to see the success that Dutch Fork's had in such a short time. But Tom Knotts is in his 16th season and has won 9 state championships. So the trophies speak for themselves. And yes, Burns was, at the top of the state at one time. But guess what? In order to get back to where you once were, you have to win games like this. Tonight's a program-changing type of game if Burns were able to go and pull the upset.
And these programs that are here still playing right now, these are all programs that are used to winning, that will not tolerate losing, that if they got a coach that's winning a good number of games but not enough games, they'll fire him. They'll move on. They'll find somebody better. Let's move to the Gaffney at Northwestern game, a game that you and Alex Guest disagree on.
Yeah, you know what? I believe I've gone back and forth. Is Alex taking Gaffney in this one?
He has Gaffney down as his pick.
Yeah, I've gone back and forth a lot. And matter of fact, I told somebody this morning that it wouldn't surprise me if Gaffney goes to District 3 Stadium and gets the win. I believe that Northwestern will win. But, man, I'll tell you this. I know I have to make an official pick right now, and I will. But I have been so undecided on this one because you just can't count Gaffney out in November. Last week, if you would have told me that Gaffney would go to Greenwood and only complete 3 passes and win the football game, I'd have said, man, that's going to be a tall task. Guess what they did? They won the game last week. They have an incredible defense. Kendaris Bailey, who was our player of the week, showed up and showed out. They forced 4 turnovers a week ago playing Greenwood. So if they can go force turnovers tonight, they absolutely can win the game. I don't think they're going to force 4 like they did last week, but you're going to have to go play another really good game. And I know Gaffney's fan base will travel really well. They'll have their District 3 stadium tonight. And if they come out and they hit Northwestern in the mouth and that gets going and those guys start believing, then I would take Gaffney all day long. I ultimately think that the balanced attack of Northwestern, they're not air raid like a lot of people think they are. They have more rushing yards this season than passing yards. They have more rushing attempts than passing attempts. They like to run the football. And if they can run the football tonight, they feel like that'll open up their pass I like Northwestern barely. I think this is a really close football game. I think this comes down to the fourth quarter, and I could see either team winning tonight, Diesel. But you're making me pick one, and I'm going to pick Northwestern.
Wow.
I really have a tough time picking this one because these are two good teams. Donnie Littlejohn, I mean, you talk about a guy in his first season, Diesel, who he got a marquee win last week over Chris Liner in Greenwood. But if you go to District 3 Stadium and knock off Northwestern, all those people who wanted Donnie Littlejohn fired after that 1-2 start, they're going to be eating a lot of crow because that would be a monumental win for Gaffney.
Well, if Gaffney gets this win tonight, then Peanut Bailey and Donnie Littlejohn are going to be saying, "Hey, Cole, pick against us every single week." Because every time you pick against us, we win.
Don't say that out loud. You're right, though.
All right, let's move down to TL Hanna hosting Indian Land. What do you think about this one?
I struggle with this one as well. TL Hanna's had an incredible year, man. It just feels like this TL Hanna team figured something out after that week 0 loss to Burns. They hadn't lost since, and they're a heck of a football team. What they do offensively, they can out-scheme you, man. They can get you misaligned, and we all know how tough that offense is to stop. But Indian Land's a team that a lot of people in the upstate really aren't familiar with. So a lot of people in the upstate tonight, I think, will pick TL Hanna over Indian Land. But I have been doing a little bit of research. I've been talking to coaches in that area. Indian Land matches up really well against TL Hanna. Their front six defensively, their line of scrimmage, and the way their linebackers can fill the gap, they're big, they're physical, and from what I've been told, Indian Land really likes their matchup tonight because of what they can do, especially at the line of scrimmage. That's how you beat TL Hanna. And you throw in if they have enough firepower to, jump on them like you saw Burns do in week 0, it does put TL Hanna in a little bit of a dilemma because Diesel, they're a wing T offense, and if they get down, they're having to throw the football. They did it at Nixon Field back in week 0. Fourth quarter, they abandoned the wing T. They were throwing the football, and that is a recipe for disaster if you're Jason Toll and TL Hanna. So I'm going to make my pick official. I'm going Indian Land, but I will say this, just like I said with Gaffney Northwestern, it wouldn't surprise me either way. I think Indian Land has what it takes up front to win this football game in the trenches, and that's how you beat TL Hanna. And if you can hunt them and kind of put them behind the 8 ball a little bit, I like Indian Land's chances. But another instance where it wouldn't surprise me either way what the outcome is tonight. These are two really good football teams.
Let it be known that Cole Bryson is not an upstate homer. He has picked the team outside of the upstate in 3 out of these 4 matchups already. How about that?
That's true.
Let's go Camden at Westside.
Camden's been the team that's kind of caught my eye over the last 3 or 4 weeks. Westside's really good, but I feel pretty confident in Camden tonight. I think Camden has the offense to really put some pressure on Westside. Now, Westside's playing a lot better now than they were to start the season when they started 0-4 or whatever it was, a really rough start for Brian Lane's squad. They figured things out. They won the region championship, right? They beat Wren again in the postseason. They're playing with a lot more confidence than they were in September, which is a big deal. And I think this is a really close football game tonight. But I think Camden has a little bit more firepower than Westside does. And, Westside's got a couple of guys, but I believe that experience does matter in the postseason. And Camden's got some veteran pieces where I feel like they'll get the job done tonight. But you never can count out Brian Lane at Westside. I mean, he's done a good job over there, played for and won a state championship. Not the same Woods playing for the younger version that's a little bit taller than the one at South Carolina now. But I think this is going to go down to the wire. But give me Camden. Give me the Bulldogs tonight.
Dewey wants you to be careful driving, Cole. He says it's not safe to talk and drive at the same time. How about Mountain View Prep at Powdersville?
Mountain View Prep Powdersville, it was a game, Diesel. I leaned Powdersville all week long, and then this morning I woke up thinking, man, maybe I'm being a little bit too bullish on this one. I'm still going to take Powdersville. I like Powdersville in this matchup. Mountain View Prep has played with fire the last 2 weeks, which I think will come back to cost them tonight. I think Mountain View Prep might have a few skill guys that are better than Mountain View or than Powdersville's skill guys, but I think ultimately Powdersville has the more complete football team than Mountain View Prep. I could be wrong. What's interesting, Diesel, is the last 2 rounds of the playoffs, the last 2 weeks, Mountain View has won by a point in each game. They won by 1 point last week. They won by 1 point in the very first round. So Crescent put a good test on them last week. I think Townersville has what it takes in the game plan to try to limit Katie Hainsworth and those guys at Mountain View Prep. I could see this one going either way. I know I've said that about every game, but when you get to the quarterfinals round, these are really good teams, right? Give me Townersville tonight.
How about that? Taking down the mighty MVP. How about Woodruff hosting BHP?
I think this is the game I'd be at, Diesel, if I weren't going to Irmo, Dutch Fork, Burns tonight in Irmo. Woodruff, Belton Honeypath has the making to be an instant classic. Aiden Gibson's one of the most talented football players in the upstate, maybe the state. And Woodruff is going to have to ride Aiden Gibson tonight in order to get a win. As talented as Woodruff has been, Belton Honeypath, they're just a different beast. And I love what Russell Blackston's done. Their offense looks a little bit different than it did last year. Noah Thomas at quarterback is a heck of a football player. And I like Noah Thomas just because of his experience. This guy has played for almost 3.5 years now. He played in some really big games last year. He got hurt in the state championship game where they couldn't close the deal. They feel like at Belton Honeypath, even though they lost Henderson, who went to Clemson for a little while, even though they lost their stud running back, Belton Honeypath feels like they can go win it all this year and close the deal, which they weren't able to do last year. And, man, they're just so talented across the board. I think Belton Honeypath tonight, I think Noah Thomas has a big night. I think he has the better night at the quarterback position, but you can't count Woodruff out. That place tonight, Spartanburg County, is going to be packed. It's going to be a packed house. Aiden Gibson's phenomenal. They better put it in his hand 25 times tonight because he's that good of a player. But I do think the Bears get it done tonight. I'm going with BHP.
All right, last one for you. Fairfield Central at Clinton.
Central's really good, man, but they're going to play a team that has a kid by the name of Javen Cook at Clinton that's going to make life tough for Fairfield Central. Javen Cook is 2 touchdowns shy of breaking the all-time touchdown record at Clinton High School, and I think he does that tonight. He's one of the better backs. He had 200-plus last week in their big second-round win. They're a state championship team. They have a lot of that experience back on this year's team. I think Clinton wins tonight, even though Fairfield Central puts up a fight, man. Fairfield Central, year in and year out, they've got athletes at every position. This could be one of the better football games. We'll be driving through Clinton here in just a few minutes. But I like Jaden Cook. It's just maybe the best running back at his level in the 3A classification in the entire state of South Carolina. He doesn't get enough credit for what he's done. And I think the Red Devils roll on and maybe even another state championship appearance, but I do like them to win tonight.
All right, Cole, I filled in your Indian Land and Powdersville picks so that you can't back out of it and switch it up on us. But the question that I asked you earlier, the Road Dogs that are probably the best team in this bracket in the games that we just picked, the team that will definitely get a win on the road, and give me one team that are just that defend the house better than anybody else who's playing at home.
Well, I think Dutch Fork plays as good at home as anybody, Diesel, just because of, number one, how talented they are. They don't lose many games at home, right? And we've talked about how tough that task is going to be for the Burns Rebels tonight. There have only been 3 coaches to ever go to Dutch Fork and win a postseason game at Dutch Fork while Tom Knotts has been the head coach. 2011, Bruce Clark did it. 2010, Chris Miller did it at Burns. In 2015, Dave Gutshaw did it at Dorman. So you just don't win down there in the playoffs. It's going to be tough. They're going to defend their home turf. And then I think if I have to give you a road team that I would be most confident in, I think I pick Gaffney, because I think Gaffney, my bold prediction is tonight, Gaffney will have more fans in attendance than Northwestern will. The last few times I've been to a game at District 3 Stadium, I haven't been overly impressed with Northwestern's crowd. I think Gaffney will turn that into a home field advantage tonight, and I would not be surprised if there was a picture that came out that showed that they had more fans on the road, even though it's about a 45-minute drive up Highway 5. I think Gaffney would be the team I pick to go on the road and do it.
Well, there you go, Cole. We appreciate your time. Be safe getting down the road, and I'll be making that same trip tomorrow as I'm heading down to cover Coastal at South Carolina. Be safe for the rest of your trip, pal.
We'll talk to you at 7 o'clock. The Burns Rebels pregame show will air then.
That's right. That is Cole Bryson going to be on the call coming up later on this evening. And when we come back, let's talk about the SEC, the big old Southeastern Conference that's looking at maybe 5 teams making the college football playoff this season. Talking to Chris Phillips of SEC Unfiltered about this logjam at the top as they're trying to get into that SEC championship game. That is coming your way next. Well, everybody vying for just 2 spots in the SEC championship game. I wonder, though, if the SEC championship game has lost a little bit of its meaning when, well, it feels like 5 teams are probably going to be making it into the college football playoff from the SEC. To rebuke everything that I just said and tell me that I'm an idiot for thinking the SEC championship game doesn't mean as much anymore, I go to the phone lines, bring on good friend of the show, Chris Phillips of SEC Unfiltered. Chris, I know that the college football playoff is the penultimate goal for most of these teams. How much weight does that trophy, the SEC title trophy, still hold among players and coaches in a college football landscape where they tell us that, well, the old traditions, they just don't matter anymore. These players aren't as into it as they used to be.
Well, Diesel, first things first, man, appreciate you having me on. It's always a pleasure to chat with you. I think it depends on who you ask. You know, admittedly, I think you go to Athens, Georgia, and talk to Kirby Smart and those players. I think it's ingrained in them that winning the SEC title is still a big deal. I think if you ask one of the schools like Texas A&M, South Carolina, Arkansas, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, teams that never won an SEC championship, I think winning an SEC championship would be a big deal. And I think there's maybe some others that, you know, it's not as big a deal too. So I don't think there's one definitive answer. I mean, I think it's obviously matters less now than it ever has with, you know, we have the debate of would you rather, I mean, even amongst Georgia fans, they're talking about it right now. Would you rather go to the college football playoff and host a playoff home game, or would you rather go to the SEC title and potentially not do that, right? So it matters less than it ever has before. But again, I just think it depends on who you ask, whether it's a big deal to them or not.
Might be one of the most plugged in guys when it comes to SEC football. Man, you're rapidly approaching 100,000 followers on Twitter, which is an incredible feat, man, to hit that number. You're heading right for it. So you're plugged into a lot of these fan bases. Are they really kind of chopping it up, the theories of whether or not it's a good thing to not even make the SEC championship game when it comes to staying more healthy and staying fresh heading into the college football playoff?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, I talk to a lot of fan bases every single week, and we're on the road and chatting it up with different folks. And yeah, those conversations are had for sure. Like I said, Georgia fans right now are having it where it's, you know, I mean, there's pros and cons to everything, but certainly you go to Atlanta, win the SEC title. I mean, it's a great thing. But I mean, Diesel, look at last year. I mean, every team that got a bye in the college football playoff lost. So how much does the bye help? Does it really? I think there's a case to be made that, you know, football is a sport like many others that you get better at it by playing it and you play it more often. And there's something to be said about having that game to where, you know, maybe you get banged up a little bit, but you've got a game under your belt. You know, you feel good about, you can make adjustments from the previous week versus taking a month or so off. And you kind of don't know what you're going to get. So, I mean, you saw that with Georgia last year when they got beat by Notre Dame. So, and I think also too, just again, Diesel, the opportunity to host a home playoff game is such a lucrative one. Like you think about for these cities like Athens, for Oxford, for Norman, potentially, if they get one, Tuscaloosa, et cetera, et cetera. Think about the economic boom for these hometowns, these SEC towns as well. So, I mean, I think selfishly, if you ask anyone, hosting a home playoff game is a dream. Now, do you want to do that every year? Would you like to have the bye sometimes? For sure. But no, certainly talking to these fan bases, they're most of them are in favor of, hey, give me that home playoff game and we'll just kind of figure it out from there.
Well, Chris, being that I went to a school that hosted a lot of home playoff games themselves, there's nothing like it. I mean, SEC championship games are great, and taking that road trip to Atlanta is fantastic. But when you get to host a playoff game that means that much more, win and advance, survive and advance, there's nothing like it. Speaking of, you said lucrative and economic booms there. What is it ultimately that you think is going to motivate Lane Kiffin to make his decision? And, you know, I don't remember who it was, the band that wrote the song, it was Rush, who said, if you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice. If Lane Kiffin goes nowhere, he's chosen to stay at Ole Miss where he's built something really special. I've argued that maybe the deciding factor is not adding more money to Lane's paycheck, but it's adding more money to what he's able to do with NIL and assistant coaches. What do you think motivates Lane Kiffin? He might be one of the slipperiest guys to try to nail down when it comes to what motivates him.
Yeah, Diesel, nobody knows what Lane Kiffin's thinking other than Lane Kiffin. It's pretty hard to get into the brain of a guy like that. But I think where he decides to go will tell you what he's motivated by. put it that way. Does he want a statue? Does he want his name on a stadium? Does he want a ring? Does he want to satisfy maybe some of the wants of his family? I think depending on where he lands, I think that'll kind of give you the answer of what he's most motivated by. Because, listen, the salary numbers are all right around the same. LSU wants to make him the highest paid head football coach in the entire country. Ole Miss is going to have an offer right there, right around it, if you will. But and I think the NIL numbers even are all going to be pretty similar. I mean, I think one is going to be above the other. But again, if he's motivated by winning a ring, I think he goes to LSU or he goes to Florida. If he's motivated by family, he goes to Florida because of the ties with his ex-wife and her father played with Steve Spurrier and all that stuff, like the whole vibes of everything. If he's motivated by, hey, I can have my name on the stadium, it can be Lane Kiffin Field at Vaught-Hemingway Stadium. I think he stays at Ole Miss, right? And maybe he's motivated too by the thought of doing something never been done before. That would be Ole Miss winning a national championship. So I think his decision where he goes is going to tell us what he's motivated by. And I'm glad you brought that up, Diesel, because I think that's the thing, that it's not as simple as what's the best job of the three. It's not as simple as defining it that way. It's what is Lane Kiffin motivated by? And that's the hard thing to really read and find out. And again, I just don't know that we're really going to know until he makes that final decision, which I think is going to come very, very soon.
Chris, if you want to use that, you can have it inside the brain of Lane, a segment on your own show. You can have spin a wheel and see what he's going to be motivated by today. Isn't it wild that not long ago, FlightAware was basically the best and really only way to try to figure out what a coach is doing, who he's interviewing with, where he might be going. But now I'm seeing people are videoing Lane's daughter in the background at an LSU fundraising event. I mean, how many different wild ways have you seen people try to predict what Lane's going to do?
Probably the wildest, Diesel, is I've seen like leaks of his son's Snapchat. And I think his son is like 16 or something like that. People are like following his son's Snapchat. And I can't imagine a media, which I can't imagine it, but I don't want to imagine like these media members creating like fake Snapchats to then go add his son on Snapchat. They can get access to his story and what some 16-year-old's posting. But I have seen like leaks like that on message boards. Little screenshots have sent me. So yeah, it's dude, in a coaching search, it gets pretty out there. It gets pretty wild. People are obviously reaching, trying to figure out who's going to be the next guy. What people love to be in the know, right? We love the gossip. Admittedly, we all love the gossip and we all want to be ahead of the curve and know what's going on. And that's what makes this search so fascinating, man, is it's changed so much over the last, 72, 96 hours. Every day it feels like there's a new favorite. Every day it feels like there's a new piece of information that makes you think you're leaning one way or the other. And I mean, even today, right before I jumped on with you, I got a few texts that sway me heavily to think he's going to sign with LSU this weekend. So
really,
yesterday I was convinced, obviously the meeting with Keith Carter today, which we haven't gotten a single update on it. Obviously, I think if Lane doesn't sign the extension today, I think he's gone. I really do. It feels like kind of the last ditch effort. You've got that last in-home visit with the 5-star and like you're kind of selling your program and just reinforcing everything that you've already told him, and you're putting your best foot forward. Like if he doesn't sign that extension coming out of that meeting, if you don't get pen to paper in that meeting, and that meeting may have already happened. I don't know what time that meeting was at. I'd feel really poorly about your odds if you're an Ole Miss fan.
I'm thinking about the prospect, Chris, of walking away from a team that's going to be playing in the college football playoff and maybe even in the SEC championship game to leave and go to a school that's sub 500, that's hovering around 500 right now for a new job. That is a mind-blowing prospect only in the SEC.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it's a huge risk for him, man. I mean, admittedly, I was someone, I went on record earlier this week and said if I was advising Lane Kiffin, I'd tell him to stay at Ole Miss. Really, admittedly, I just, for what he's built and what he's doing, and I understand that LSU's got more tradition and more history, and you could argue more resources, and Florida, same thing. There's no guarantees, but both of those programs, as great as they are, and as many, everything they've got, the advantages, they're both screwed up in their own ways behind the scenes. They are, that neither one of them is perfect, far from it. So, I think Lane will have a lot of success if he does go there. I think he'd have a lot of success if he went to Florida, but There's no guarantee he's going to have 3 straight 10-win seasons. There's no guarantee. Like, he just did that at Ole Miss. There's no guarantee he's going to do that. That doesn't mean he won't be wildly successful there, but there's no guarantee that it will happen. So Lane loves to tweet and put stuff out there, and he once tweeted something about a passage that says the grass is greenest where you water it. And I just, if he goes to the other side at LSU, hopefully he's watering it, because it's not always greener on that other side.
Well, he also tweeted a photo of an airplane hangar and tagged SMU. So, I think he's just enjoying this process, trolling everybody.
He's a troll. Hey, listen, you know what's funny? We love to give Lane crap, but he's acting just like every other recruit ever. So
sure.
But the difference is he's a grown man who's a head football coach. He's not a 17-year-old getting recruited to go to college. So, a little bit of a difference.
So at the risk of making this entire segment about Lane Kiffin, and I don't intend to do that, last question on Lane, I promise. Do you think LSU fans will essentially supply him with unlimited funds to go build the absolute richest, most expensive roster in college football? Because last year it was unthinkable that Ohio State paid $25 million in their NIL. And this year the reports are Texas spent $40 million on theirs. Do you think, LSU, a fan base that supposedly struggled to come up with the $53 million to get rid of Brian Kelly. Could you see a possibility where we're looking at a $7,500 million roster if he takes the job at LSU or even Florida?
I think certainly that 40 million number you mentioned, I think, is around where LSU is going to be. I think Ole Miss too, though. I think Ole Miss was offering him that as well, from what I was told.
Wow.
So at least around it. And I think that is the number one priority for Lane. I don't think he's worried about his own salary. I think he's worried about what his roster is going to make and the money he's going to have to go out and get the best roster and compete for championships. So, yeah. And here's the thing too: if he goes to LSU and they give him that 40, let's just say they give him 40 million that first year, and they go win 10 games, they make the playoff, whatever, they're going to give him more. Diesel, you underestimate how insane these people in Louisiana are. They're nuts. And I love them to death, but they're nuts. They will. Winning isn't just a thing in Louisiana. It's the only thing. Like LSU football being elite is everything. It's everything for them. So, yeah, I think they will give Lane Kiffin everything that he wants. And if he comes in there and wins immediately and has success, yeah, there's no limit on what LSU will give him to continue and build another LSU dynasty, if you will, and go on another crazy run down in Baton Rouge.
Chris, I'm going to ask you a big picture question here. Is going divisionless everything Greg Sankey and SEC fans who may or may not have wanted this, is it everything they wanted it to be, or is the chaos that we're seeing at the top with four or even 5 teams that could make the SEC championship game, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it's a good thing. I think if you ask them, I think they'd say it's a good thing. I think more teams are involved. Now you could argue too, Diesel, more teams are not involved, right? Like there's just such a clear discrepancy between the top and the bottom. When we had divisions, obviously, like it felt like some of these division races were going on until later in the season. But then again, I say that and like, dude, it was Georgia every year dominating the East every year. And they'd have the division wrapped up, it felt like, by the first week in November, essentially every single year. So I think the no divisions, I think it's better from a conference-wide perspective, but it's another one of those things depends on who you're asking. Hey, if you're South Carolina and you finish 4th in the SEC East, you didn't win a trophy, certainly, but hey, you finished 4th in the SEC East. Doesn't feel as good to say, yeah, we finished 12th in the league, right? Doesn't feel as good to say that. So it's not as good for those teams, the Arkansas, the Mississippi States, the Kentuckys. It's not as good for those teams. But, yeah, I think for, the race to Atlanta, I mean, dude, you have to walk me through the scenarios right now in regards to who gets there, and we're going into the second last week of the season. So I think from that standpoint, the drama, more teams having a shot at the top, I do think it's better. I don't think they would regret it and say we'd rather go back to having an East and West.
So, Chris, tell me who is your picks to make it to Atlanta. Georgia's already in the clubhouse, wrapped up their SEC slate. A&M still got to face Texas. on the road, by the way. It's a tough environment. Ole Miss got to go play a rivalry game against Mississippi State. There's still a lot going on, even though this weekend is the dreaded SEC SoCon showdown. Who are your picks to make it to Atlanta?
Yeah, Diesel, good question. Right now, I'm going to go Alabama, Texas A&M. I think those two make it. I think it ends up being the Aggies getting their first SEC title appearance, and I do think Alabama is able to take down Auburn. As of right now, in Jordan-Hare, subject to change, Diesel, admittedly, because I'll make my picks next week, and you never know. I might just the wind might hit me right. You never know. No, I think Bama should win that football game. I do. I right now I'd go Bama A&M. There's a part of me though, Diesel, that wants to say, you know what? Wouldn't it just be ironic after all the madness and chaos, and we just end right back up with Bama, Georgia? Just like the more things change, the more they stay the same. But man, I tell you that the season A&M's had, they deserve to go. I think they will go. I think it'll be Bama A&M right now. But that's the craziness, man. You got to walk through all these tiebreaker scenarios, and we might get to a place where like winning percentage against common opponents is the determining factor, which is wild to say.
But if Bama gets into the SEC championship game and loses that game, now they're a 3-loss team. I get it; they had the extra data point in the title game. Would a 3-loss Bama, in your mind, still be a lock, no matter what, for the college football playoff?
And see, now we're having the conversation, Diesel, that we had last year about the conference title games and should it knock you out. I think you're setting a horrific precedent if a conference title game can knock you out of the college football playoff. So I would say they should be a lock. Now, I don't know that they will be because they play Eastern Illinois and Auburn. I don't know how much that's really going to move you up in the rankings. And we know 11 is going to be the ACC champ, 12 is going to be the G5 champ, essentially. So the top 10 spots are what we're fighting for. I mean, if Bama's at 7 and they lose to A&M, I don't know. Especially if they were to get blown out. I think result would matter. But, man.
And they would have 2 losses in recent memory. It's not like these were
losses. And losing late kills you. Losing late kills you with the playoff. I tell you this, though. If an Alabama misses the playoff because they lost the SEC title, we're moving a lot closer to not having conference title games very, very quickly.
It's fair. It's a good point. Chris Phillips, SEC Unfiltered. Go give him a follow. Help him reach that 100,000 mark. Do you have anything? I know it's still a little bit of ways away. You're at 82,000 right now. Do you have any ideas, any plans for a celebration at 100K?
I don't even know, man. I'm grateful to say that I've got a lot to celebrate these days. It feels like every other day we're hitting some new milestone and some achievement. It's all living out a dream, man. So we'll cross the bridge when we get to it. Probably pop a bottle of champagne and smoke a cigar and just kind of reflect on everything. I don't know, maybe something else, but right now it's probably that'll be the top. There'll definitely be a victory cigar in there, but it'll be cheers to 100K and on to 200. So it's just almond and upward, man. I appreciate you, man. It's always a pleasure, and yeah, just grateful for the journey and grateful for the opportunity. And it's pretty humbling experience to say that we're creeping up on that number.
At least I'll be able to say, Chris, that I knew you win. You were just a young whippersnapper trying to make it in this business, and wish you nothing but the best, and can't wait to get you back on.
Yeah, Diesel, you're the man, brother. Always a pleasure.
Thanks, Chris. That is Chris Phillips, SEC Unfiltered. Go find him. His coverage of all things SEC is unparalleled. Doing an absolutely fantastic job, and appreciate his time joining me here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. We'll take our look around everything else that's going on in the sports world, because it is not all quiet out there. Our Daily Wires coming your way next. upset picks are rolling in. Appreciate you, Jeff R, WVU fan 214, Eric B, RJ, J Tez, and others. Keep them coming. This is your last day to get us your week number 13 upset picks. 844 fan phone. Give us your name, your game, and the spread. Now it's time for the buzz around the sports world. Your daily wires today. If you haven't seen this scary situation for the East Carolina equipment truck as it blew out what they call a steer tire on the equipment tractor trailer that drives everything down to games. They were headed to San Antonio. If you're watching on the stream, this is what that looked like. This is what happened to the truck. The tire just blew out and disintegrated, and it peeled the front left corner. It's what it looks like, front left corner of the cab apart. Really scary situation. Glad that the equipment truck was able to make it down to San Antonio safely. They swapped out cabs and ended up towing the thing the rest of the way. So scary stuff there. The possibility of Missouri quarterback Bo Pribula returning for tomorrow's game against number 8 Oklahoma is increasing. He is being upgraded from doubtful to questionable. And I've seen some reports out there that seems like Bo is going to go. Auburn freshman quarterback Deuce Knight going to make his first career start against Mercer on Saturday. DJ Durkin, interim head coach, made the announcement saying, quote, "He's earned it. He's done a great job, and we're excited to see him go play." Jackson Dart is expected to see the field, though, so maybe splitting some action there. Last night in top 25 NCAA basketball, Purdue beat Memphis 80-71. Number 15 Texas Tech squeaked by Wake Forest 84-73. Tonight, they will face Purdue in a 15 versus 1 matchup in Nassau. Also tonight, number 9 BYU hosts number 23 Wisconsin. After starting 0-3, the Texans are now on the plus side of 500 with a Thursday night football win against Josh Allen and the Bills. Man, they were just all in the backfield for the Bills. Josh was sacked 8 times for minus 70 yards. He was picked off twice. Even though Josh Allen outgained his counterpart, Davis Mills, by 100 yards through the air. James Cook also added 116 on the ground. But, hey, it's really difficult to overcome 8 sacks and 2 interceptions. New York Giants quarterback Jackson Dart remains in the concussion protocol, will not play in Sunday's game against the Lions. Baylor has announced they will keep 5-5 head football coach Dave Aranda for another season. Spitgate 2.0 this weekend. Philly at Dallas. Eagles defensive tackle Jalen Carter, if you don't remember, was suspended for a game for spitting on Dak Prescott in their first matchup earlier this season. The Lakers have fired Joey and Jesse Buss from their executive positions as part of a restructuring of their basketball operations. The Buss brothers have both been with the Lakers for over 2 decades, but Jeannie Buss will remain as the team governor. And last one for you tonight in the NHL, the Hurricanes going to face the Winnipeg Jets at 8 o'clock on ESPN+. Carolina up and down lately. They have traded wins for losses the last 6 games. When we come back, we'll go back to the guest line and bring on Matt Smith, Sports Talk Media Network. If you got questions about the Tigers, about the Gamecocks this weekend, or if you want to look ahead a little bit, you can ask them those questions as well. Text in 844-FAN-PHONE. our next guest had me a little bit worried. I thought he leaves the friendly confines of the state of South Carolina, goes out on the road, and won't answer his phone. But we got him. Matt Smith, Sports Talk Media Network, joins me on the show, Wire to Wire, with Dees and then Cole Bryson. Smitty, you said you were in Indiana or Illinois following the Gamecocks. They're in West Virginia tonight, though, right?
Yeah, I'm with Coastal Carolina.
Oh, you're with Coastal Carolina. Okay. I got a little confused there. So let's start right there with Coastal Carolina and South Carolina. It's funny, last week I didn't ask you the question, but I wanted to. If South Carolina lost against Texas A&M and bowl eligibility was not a thing for them, how much trouble would you say South Carolina was in against Coastal? Now, we know that Samari Collier not going to play in this game. They are just a different football team when he is there. But, again, those truths still exist. Not going bowling. Rumors are that Lenora Sellers might be out the door. Heartbreaking College Station that none of us could have foreseen. Losers of 5 straight. How are you feeling about this game? And even with a backup quarterback who was the starter earlier in the season for the Chanticleers, how motivated and how much in their hearts do the South Carolina Gamecock team have for this game?
Well, these are good questions. Now, it may be true no one could have foreseen exactly what happened with the Gamecocks, but if you go back and replay my answer from last Friday with you and Cole, I did say South Carolina was going to play nearly heroic football and yet lose in the final minute and come up just short. Did I think they would have a 27-point lead? I did not. I certainly didn't see that coming. And look, we don't have to – I know you guys have been picking at that one all week, so we don't have to go back and relitigate that one and all that went wrong there. But as far as how they'll play against Coastal Carolina, I don't know, because to your point, there isn't that much on the line. Coastal Carolina, as you said, they come in limping as well, having lost. They had found something so wonderful in a 4th-string quarterback in Samari Collier, and now that's gone. That's lost. So I don't know the motivation on either side, other than it's a football game and they want to win for obvious reasons. But can South Carolina pick itself back up emotionally? This is the ultimate sandwich spot. It's not something that we talk about often, because when you live in the state and you cover South Carolina and Clemson the way that we do, every game is just big. But you do have to say, if you were, the 30,000-foot view, people that are looking at this from Nova Scotia, people that are looking at this from Los Angeles, California, or Austin, Texas, would say, what a sandwich spot for South Carolina. They play the number 3 team in the country in Texas A&M, have a chance to pull off a monumental upset, and then 7 days from now, they play their rival, which is really what the success of this season rests upon. And in between, you have a Sun Belt matchup. So if you were not in this state and just didn't cover it day to day and think about how much and how important we think every game is, and everything that every word uttered by Dabo Swinney or Shane Beamer is, this is the ultimate sandwich spot. You have to give that some credence.
Smitty, if you were a head coach at a Division I team, especially any FBS team, but especially the better ones, the SEC and the ACC type of teams, and you weren't entirely sold on the high school prospect that you have coming in, would you rather go after a guy that has had a lot of success at a smaller school, at an FCS type school? I'm thinking about, I'm blanking on his name, the guy that's playing quarterback for Western Carolina right now. He's amazing. Or, for example, Samari Collier, who came in from a JUCO school. Would you rather have somebody coming in that may be a little undersized, but is a proven winner, versus somebody that ticks off all the check boxes? 6'2", 215 pounds. In high school, he had an arm like a rocket, but high school football, all it really takes is 2 or 3 superior athletes, and you can make a playoff run. So how if you're a coach, how are you trying to make that kind of decision? What goes through your mind?
I think this is a good question. And now, look, you have to take it obviously on a case-by-case basis. But where do I start? I start with guys that can play because I've seen too many. I mean, listen, I'll age myself here. Some of your older listeners may remember Dan McGuire. You know, it's a rare thing that somebody comes out and has been overlooked, but he has all the measurables, as they say, and he's got the arm strength. He looks good, you know, in the underwear Olympics, as Mike Golick used to say. He tips the scales at 245 pounds, rock solid muscle, 4% body fat, all the things you want. And he can play, and he has the intangibles upstairs, and he's coachable, and he can play in multiple systems, and he's a proven winner. You just don't find these guys. I like guys that can play. I would look at all the things you're talking about, the boxes to be checked. I'd look at those last, because if I were going to bet my job, if I had a $6 million job, an $8 million job, a $10 million job, I'm not betting on somebody that I'm going to be able to figure it out with them when others couldn't. I would bet on the guy that I know I can put on the film and start talking about all the good things he does. Because some of the great players in college football didn't have all the measurables. Look, you can look back at the history of the draft and look at guys that came out that were 6'2", 230, ran 4.6 40s, did all the things you wanted them to do, but they just couldn't play football. I'd go with the guys that could play first.
All right. There was a quote that kind of had people all over the state laughing this week. Shane Beamer, it feels like maybe we're in a little bit of an end game here with a quote like this, where he says, next year, this time we're going to be in the CFP hunt. Is anybody who's supposed to buy this notion, right? Who is he trying to sell this to? And what was your reaction to that?
No, as I've said the last few weeks, things are just moving so fast. I took a little bit of time and looked at South Carolina's season from last year, and you know, the ups and downs. And 2 years ago, you know, it was easy to forget that 2 seasons ago, South Carolina was 5-7 and endured a 4-game losing streak with Spencer Rattler and then Dow Loggins, who's a lot of people's favorite now, not yours, you're an App State fan, but a lot of people, because Mike Shula got fired so unceremoniously. But look, this was a team that was scuffling and struggling a little bit, but you knew you had Lenore Sellers. You were excited about it. You were going to be, and then nobody knew what the future would hold. And I mean, in that 1 year, you just didn't know that they were going to go out and win 9 games and put together a 6-game winning streak a year after having a 4-game losing streak. Well, this year, a 5-game losing streak. And look, all to ranked teams. I guess LSU is no longer ranked, but South Carolina did lose on the road at night in LSU. Not an easy place, not an easy venue to go out and get a win. So I don't know what the future holds. I think predicting those things, you can't predict them as a coach. You can't predict them from the outside. We don't know what the roster is going to look like. You have to believe that if you're a head coach, but to say it out loud, I just think you're asking for trouble.
Talking to Matt Smith, Sports Talk Media Network. He is on the road with the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers right now. You live and are working now out of the Myrtle Beach area, right?
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a quick 3-question true or false about Myrtle Beach. Let's see how much Matt Smith knows about the Grand Strand area. True or false, co-host of Wheel of Fortune, Vanna White, is from Myrtle Beach.
She's not. She's from North Myrtle Beach.
Oh, he knows more than I do. How about that? Next one.
Oh, of course. She was a superstar. See, that's my
still
era.
is. What do you mean was?
Yeah. That's my era, Diesel.
There you go. Matt Smith knows how to do the Carolina Shag, the official state dance of South Carolina.
I know how to do it. I can't do it. Okay, that I can draw a picture of the shag steps back and forth, but I got no rhythm there.
And last one for you, true or false about Myrtle Beach. There is a difference between the boogie boards that are on sale at Wings and Pacific Beachwear.
Oh, there absolutely is. one set is made in China and the other's made in Taiwan. Take for that what you will.
Talking South Carolina and Clemson football here with Matt Smith, Sports Talk Media Network. How did you take the clip of Dabo Swinney saying that they aren't going to cut anyone to make room on their roster? I mean, I get it. It's commendable. It's principled. We've gone over that a million times with Dabo Swinney. But, in truth, to make it back to the college football playoff and hopefully win the thing, this roster needs an overhaul, especially going into next season with all this talent leaving them for the NFL. What is it? Is this Dabo just saying more of the same old, I'm not changing, I'm not doing anything? Or does he kind of need to figure out ways to shave some guys out of this roster to make room and build in some flexibility?
I don't know. He's made a lot of comments about roster construction in terms of what the NCAA rules should be as we've moved forward, especially now that the COVID year is gone. And Dabo Swinney, I can tell you, is in favor of the 5-in-5 rule, which is, or 5-4-5. I'm trying to recall. It's been a few weeks since I've given it any thought, but he wants them to have players to have 5 years of eligibility and get rid of this, kind of convoluted red shirt where you can play 4 games and then you can still red shirt for that same season, and then you get the medical red shirt. I think Coach Swinney, he's trying to simplify it, and I think that's somewhat commendable. And you said, is he saying he's not changing? I don't know. Now you say roster overhaul. If I look at Clemson and the reason that they're 5-5 instead of say, 8-2, I don't think it's the back end of the roster, the guys that would be cut, right? I think it's the guys at the top of the roster have to play better. They have to better perform. So he plans on going out and getting some big time recruits through the high school system and then converting those guys into big time college players. So I think that's actually the right attitude to have. And there's still room, even after having said that, there's still room to go out and get players through the portal to plug a hole, here or there if you think you need to. So I don't know. There's a lot of debate about roster construction and what the rules should be. That I'm not an expert, and Dabo Swinney should be, but I don't think we should read too much into him saying he's not going to cut a player or anything like that. That's not why Clemson's 5-5. The guy that's on the scout team is not the problem. It's the guys at the top that have big names that are going to the NFL draft or expected to be NFL players either next year or 2 or 3 years from now that this year aren't playing winning football.
Well, my only point there, Matt, was if you essentially cut a guy who's probably not going to play anyway, and we know Dabo used to love saying, "Hey, we got 172 guys into the game today. How awesome is that?"
Yep.
If you trim a little bit of a few of those guys, it may open up the possibilities of more elite portal guys. But then again, we all know Dabo's not going to get into a bidding war to go after a star wide receiver.
Wait, aren't some of the guys that aren't going to play much, the guys don't they carry his last name? I don't think he's going to cut.
How many sons does he have?
I don't know. I'm not many are coming, but I know one of his sons is a holder, and you got some Venables out there. But
yeah.
Okay, go ahead. You might be right, Diesel. I'm not going to say I'm an expert in roster construction or roster flexibility. I can tell you, my colleague Phil Kornbluth always knows when there's a signee for Clemson or South Carolina or Coastal for that matter. He always knows how many spots they have available, how many scholarships per year. I don't really. I enjoy covering the team. So for me, the back end of the roster is just not something I spend a lot of time on. So it could be that you're right. Maybe they need more flexibility. I'm not so well versed in it that I could tell you that.
Matt, we caught wind last week that Virginia Tech was going to make the move and hire James Franklin. I think it's a phenomenal home run hire, a guy that's won 34 games in the last 3 years and was a play away from making it, to the national championship game last year. How fast do you anticipate, or would you predict or project that James Franklin could bring Virginia Tech, maybe not to a playoff caliber team, that's maybe a couple of years down the road, but to a respectable 8-win team, to a 9-win type of team? He's obviously got a tremendous amount of pedigree and should be able to hopefully get them to spend a lot of money and open a checkbook in the way that Brent Pry and guys before him couldn't do. So, kind of how fast would you think maybe this Virginia Tech program can bounce back?
I do think it's a good fit. And I hear you home run higher, and I keep hearing that from everybody. But again, I'll just say the world's moving so fast. But what do I anticipate? I do anticipate James Franklin getting everybody excited. It's what he does. He did it at Vanderbilt, did it at Penn State. I do anticipate him recruiting at a high level and going and attacking the portal, and 8-9 wins, and maybe kind of be where, say, Louisville is this year or where SMU is this year. Yeah, I think that happens fast. I think that could happen next year for James Franklin and Virginia Tech. I do think that part of it happens fast, because one thing that was pointed out to me from a writer, and I can't credit the writer, I can't recall who it was, but I believe it was The Athletic, just went deeply into James Franklin's history. He's worked at Maryland, he's worked at JMU, and you just mentioned that, Brent Pry was not able to get a lot of the big name recruits. There is that hotbed of recruiting where Michael Vick came out of on the eastern side of Virginia, the Tidewater area where so many great athletes have roamed over the years. And Brent Pry was not able to get those. And then it was revealed who was getting them, James Franklin. He was getting them and getting them to go to Penn State. Well, now he's going to be right there at home. And I do anticipate James Franklin turning it around quickly. I will say this. Here's the biggest fight James Franklin's got on his hands. If you're a recruit, you Diesel, you're playing high school football, and you're a hotshot linebacker, big name defensive end, star running back, are you more excited about James Franklin coming to Virginia Tech or what Tony Elliott's building at Virginia? Because I think when you go toe-to-toe, I'd say Brent Pry is not a guy that would be a dynamic recruiter, somebody that would get people excited. Tony Elliott is. I think James Franklin's biggest problem at Virginia Tech is going to be beating Tony Elliott for recruiting.
Well, I mean, I would say that Virginia Tech has, 38,000 enrollment right now, which means they've got a large number of living alumni, and a lot of them are engineers. Engineers make money, and engineers are willing to maybe throw some money at the football team. I think that's a sleeping giant. I don't know if they'll be able to throw out there what Ohio State was throwing out last year, $25 million. But I mean, if they could give him a decent amount of NIL money, I think a guy like James Franklin could really bring in some high-powered transfers and great recruits right out of the gate. And isn't it fun how a coach can come in and just boomerang a program back to relevancy real quick? Let's look, Matt, at some of the ACC schools that have kind of struggled over the last 10, 15 years or so, but seemingly have found some pretty good coaches. You mentioned Tony Elliott, Fran Brown, Brent Key. Some schools that aren't used to winning at a high clip are bringing in some guys that feel like right now they could have some sustained success and sort of raise the ship or raise the water level at those programs. Do you think now those guys added to Dabo Swinney, added to James Franklin, do you think that sort of kickstarts a little fire onto the backsides of maybe NC State with Dave Dorn that I've always kind of middled right there in that 5 to 7 to 8 win range, and maybe even a Florida State that, I know they're not super happy with Norvell?
It is interesting. The ACC does this. They go through these cycles, and truly for so long, I believed that the ACC had 3 potential superpowers, 3 programs that could be at the top of the college football world. And I think we all know who those would be, Clemson and Florida State. And then I always thought Miami had a chance. That's a Jekyll and Hyde, obviously, in terms of a program. They have to have the right coach, has to be the right fit, all those things. But what you're talking about is there something else there? Is there something bubbling under the surface? Can Georgia Tech recruit? Here's the question. Can Georgia Tech recruit with Clemson and Florida State? Now that we've seen Brent Key win, now that you see what he's all about, and he's an alum, can he do that? Can James Franklin at Virginia Tech go into the homes and actually get the players that they want at Miami, but instead they opt to go with Virginia Tech? And that's what you're talking about. Is there a seismic shift? Is there a chance that it's not just, it used to be coach and program, Dabo Swinney and Clemson. It was just going to be all about that. the program itself, the money, the resources there, and that coach. But now at the ACC, you do see there are other programs that do have resources. They just haven't been winning. They didn't have the right coach for a long time. Paul Johnson, as good a football coach as he was, and he was great as a coach, as an X and O's guy, in the locker room, then getting it out on the field and getting it done. He couldn't recruit. Nobody wants to be around Paul Johnson. So you've got this team in Georgia Tech that just is not going to be able to consistently have the same caliber of talent as Florida State and Clemson and Miami. But now what you're talking about is, are these programs getting the right coaches at the right time, with Dabo kind of not going into the transfer portal? Maybe he's having trouble navigating this NIL portal area. They smell blood in the water with Florida State. And now are these other programs going to make it? Is it going to be not just where they can beat them for a year, where Louisville's on top and they're one of the better teams, where SMU's on top, they're one of the better teams for a year? Is it going to be that Clemson, Florida State, Miami, they're just one of a bunch of good teams in the ACC moving forward? I don't know. But some of the teams we're talking about, SMU and Georgia Tech specifically, I think they have staying power. SMU, I don't think it's going anywhere. They've got oil money, and they've got a heck of a football coach in Rhett Lashley. I don't think they're going anywhere. I don't think Georgia Tech's going anywhere, and I think Virginia Tech's on its way. So Dabo Swinney, Mike Norvell, and others have their work cut out for them.
Smitty, I don't know if you realized what today was. RJ, one of our texters, points this out. Today marks 10 years since the Citadel upset South Carolina. Oh. Man, that's a stat that'll make you feel old real quick, won't it? Do you remember where you were for that game?
I wasn't covering that one, so I would have been watching it on television somewhere. But yeah, and that was, that was right after Spurrier had left. So Spurrier been gone for 10 years. Is that right?
Wow.
That was
and it feels like it was 5 years ago, doesn't it?
Wow. That went fast.
Well, I know a lot of Gamecock fans want to forget and skip over the Muschamp era real quick. I know Cole isn't here, so you can be completely honest with your take on this game. Does Burns have a shot tonight against Dutch Fork?
I don't know. Every now and then we see something crazy happen in high school football, especially this time of year. And Dutch Fork has been beaten. Let's not forget, this is not an undefeated Dutch Fork team. Oceanside got them earlier in the year, but I don't know. If I were a betting man, and I hate it because I'm biased to the upstate, but I don't know. Dutch Fork, they just seem to be, there's something special. There's an elixir there. It's not just talent. It is talent, but it's talent and coaching, and tradition doesn't graduate. So I'd have to pick Dutch Fork, but I certainly hope Burns gives them help.
All right, Smitty, it's time. I need your upset pick for Week 13.
Oh, okay. I'm a little behind on –
It's okay. If you want to text it to me, you can. I don't want to put you under the gun here.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what I'm leaning toward.
Okay.
And I was kind of leaning toward Navy last week and didn't pull the trigger on that one. But I'm going to go back kind of a running underdog theme. I'm going to, I don't know, I'm going to put this one in pencil. I'll text you later a final pick. I'm going to look at the board, but I'm going to give you one I'm thinking about. And it's Missouri and Oklahoma. Oklahoma coming off such a high, beating Alabama, getting themselves right back in the playoff picture. But here's the thing. They didn't even put up 300 yards of total offense in that game. They win with defense. Missouri, who I picked previously as an upset pick, and it didn't work out against A&M, I still think they've got the ingredients. I know they're down to their second quarterback, but Ahmad Hardy is an absolute star. Eli Drinkwitz, good football coach. He might draw something up against Venables' defense, and Venables and that crew, I think, are going to have a tough time. They've had to fight and claw to get to this point, get the respect they wanted, be 8-2 here, staring a playoff bid in the face, and now it could all evaporate with one bad game. So I just had my eye on that.
Well, and the reports are getting better and better for Bo Prabula playing in this game for Missouri. So that adds a different X factor.
I didn't even know about that.
Yeah.
Didn't even know about that.
There you go. Are you willing to take Coastal over South Carolina? Any thought on that one?
I really liked Collier as a player, the quarterback for Coastal Carolina. The thought is I don't know how either one of those teams is going to play. I wouldn't touch that one. We have to pick that one for Sports Talk, and it's a 24.5 point spread, and I took Coastal plus 24.5, but I could see that game going any which of 8 ways, so I don't want to touch that.
Yeah, I took that one before the news came out that Collier wasn't going to play. So I'm locked in, though. I can't change it. Them's the rules. You can't change it once you're locked in, but you're penciled in, and I'll give you about a half an hour, Smitty. I wrote you down from Missouri, but in case you don't change it the next half hour, you'll be locked into that one.
Great. Well, I'd like to look at the board. All right. Thanks, Diesel.
Thanks, Smitty.
Thanks for needling me about Myrtle Beach. There's a million questions I could answer about Myrtle Beach, but we'll do some of them off air.
Oh, I love it. Thank you. Matt Smith, Sports Talk Media Network, joins us every Friday during football season here on the Fan Upstate. He is covering Coastal Carolina basketball on the road. Let's stay on the football field, but at a completely different level, talking about what we saw last night in Thursday night football. Buffalo suddenly forgot how to block. Oh, my God. We'll get into that, plus anything you want to talk about. Open phone lines 844-326-3663 right here on the Fan Upstate. Some breaking news as reported by Pete Thamel of ESPN. The details of James Franklin's new contract at Virginia Tech have been released. 5 years, fully guaranteed, $41 million contract. That's an average of $8.2 million per year. Look at Virginia Tech stepping up, paying for coaches on a big-time scale. The biggest part of this contract, though, and this is huge for James Franklin and Virginia Tech, an increase in the staff pool from about $8 million to $15 million. So almost doubling the amount of money that Brent Pry had to spend on his assistant pool that James Franklin will have to spend at his. So all of this puts Virginia Tech near the top of the ACC. It feels like they are taking this thing very, very seriously. It's going to be fascinating to see. And in our last segment, Smitty said, hey, I think maybe next year James Franklin could have Virginia Tech back at the level of an 8 or a 9 win team. I've said it for a long time. Virginia Tech is a sleeping giant. It's a big, big fan base, 40,000 students. So, they're pumping out a whole bunch of alumni with some money. If they get this thing rolling, look out. Katie bar the door, as they say. I mean, yeah, it's going to be really fascinating. The college football landscape in the state of Virginia, which had kind of slumped in a major way for a long, long time. It got to the point where it felt like James Madison was the football program in the state of Virginia. I know they just made their way into the Sun Belt, but man, how about Virginia Tech putting boot to ass when it comes to the amount of money that they're willing to throw out there for their assistant coaching staff and for their head coach. That news just breaking. It is time to get in your upset picks, and we go straight to the phone lines to bring in Jersey Joe, who has his upset pick. Joe, how are you?
Good, Diesel. How you doing, bud?
Fantastic.
Excellent. Hey, believe it or not, I am kind of a Virginia Tech Hokie fan.
Okay. I can believe it.
I did have family go there. My niece went there, and I had a cousin go there. I did attend probably about 5 or 6 football games there, so it's a wild place to go to see a game, that's for sure.
I've only been to one Virginia Tech game, Jersey Joe. It did not go well for my team. We got blown out somewhere in the range of like 65-7 in a year that we thought we had a pretty good team.
I hear you, man. I hear you.
It was brutal.
You can't win them all, right?
No.
But speaking of Virginia Tech, I am going to take Virginia Tech plus the 18.5 over Miami.
Wow. You think the good vibes, the James Franklin vibes, are rubbing off already? Wow. How about that?
I think the vibes are going to be running wild.
And that game is at Miami or at Virginia Tech?
No, it's at Virginia Tech at noon tomorrow.
Baby. That could be a fun one.
And Enter Sandman's going to be echoing tomorrow.
I love it. Jersey Joe, appreciate the phone call, pal.
Thanks, bud.
All right. Tolos, get them to me. 844-FAN phone. Tyler from the Berg, also going Virginia Tech over Miami plus 18.5. That would be a huge hit. How many Tolos, by the way, have taken that one? So far, just 3. Puppy Monkey Baby took Virginia Tech over Miami. Jersey Joe and Tyler from the Berg also. 844-326-3663. Word has it that Josh Allen just got sacked again. If you guys were not watching Thursday night football last night, wow, what a football game. There was so much in that game, so much defense by the Texans, not so much great offensive line play by the Buffalo Bills. Just a bad skid for the Bills over the past couple of weeks. You thought maybe this was a get-right game for the Bills, but the Texans came out and were just in Josh Allen's ear hole the entire game. He took 8 sacks. 8 sacks. Oh, wait, now it's 9. Now it's 10. I mean, they were just all over Josh Allen. They were rushing him. They were hurrying him. He threw 2 interceptions in this game. That's the second week, by the way, in a row that Josh Allen has thrown 2 interceptions in a game. And they were just out of sorts. They were out of sorts. 0 offensive touchdowns for the Bills. That was the second time this season they have been held to 0 offensive touchdowns. But on top of that, I mean, to kind kind of buck that trend, we still saw an exciting football game, probably more exciting than it had any rights being, with the Texans dominating the line of scrimmage the way that they did, especially on the defensive side of the football. We saw that incredible hook and ladder that you don't see in NFL football very often. I wish we would see it more often. You know, these guys are the best players in the world. I know that it's less likely to work because being the best on defense, you should be able to sniff out things like that. But come on, give me more backyard football in the NFL. I absolutely loved seeing that. And it was on a big play too. It was a 4th and 24, 25, just a massive, massive play for the Buffalo Bills. Again, ultimately it didn't matter. And that Texans D deserves all the credit for harassing Josh Allen the way that they did. And of course, the incredible troll job by the Texans, Danielle Hunter, with the buffalo wings that he consumed on the field after the game. Shane Barrett, I'm not asking that question. I'm not answering that question. Come on, dude. Do you think no, Shane, I'm not going to read that question on the air. 844-326-3663, a fun weekend ahead in the NFL. I think this Panthers 49ers game on Monday Night Football is going to be a big, big matchup. I think Carolina has found something. Now I say that, and they're going to get blown out, right? They should not win this football game. And I'm maybe not expecting a win for the Carolina Panthers. I'm certainly not calling for a win for the Carolina Panthers, but I would say they acquit themselves well on the road in San Francisco. This Carolina Panthers team, I think, going to ride out a little bit high off of Bryce Young winning the offensive player of the week for the NFC last week. Look, the 49ers are not an unbeatable football team. They have a 75% chance to win this game, but the 49ers, they have traded wins and losses the last couple of weeks. They've been up and down and up and down. Look at what they did on the road at Arizona. They won 41-22. And then you go back to the Rams game. And I'm not saying the Carolina Panthers are the Los Angeles Rams, but the 49ers lose that game 42-26. A week prior to that, a 10-point win on the road against the Giants. A week prior to that, an 11-point loss on the road at the Texans. A week prior to that, a 10-point win on the road, at home against Atlanta. So the 49ers are just up and down, inconsistent, and they won their last game. So this pattern proves that they ought to lose this next game at home. The thing is, they don't lose a lot of home games. So I'm expecting a pretty good game. If Bryce Young can get himself back to the point of putting up 250 yards of offense, protecting the football, Rico Dowdle, I think, is getting better and better every week. Is he a little inconsistent? Yeah, he's a little bit inconsistent. But hey, if this team could just find a median, like raise the base level performance from 180 yards passing and 75 yards rushing, a touchdown and a couple of field goals, if they could just raise that to 2 touchdowns and a couple of field goals, I think they have a chance to be in this football game. I'm excited to see how it goes. Mac Jones not jumping off the page with his numbers this year, 13 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, kind of right there in that same range as Bryce Young. Christian McCaffrey, he's got 6 touchdowns on 193 carries, so not blowing you away with his numbers. It's good that he stayed healthy for the better part of this season. But we'll have some audio from Dave Canales in a little bit talking about the Carolina Panthers and how they can stop a guy who is as multiple as Christian McCaffrey is. Also, some other big games going on around the NFL this weekend. Bucks and Rams, we'll see. On paper, it's a good game, but as we talked about yesterday, there's a bug rolling around that locker room for Tampa, and it's on the road. I don't know. Maybe they'll be a little exhausted flying across country. You know, these guys, they're flying on, lie flat beds, and they're getting massages. Eagles, Cowboys, always an interesting game, even if the Eagles are a far better team than the Cowboys. The Eagles, maybe that And maybe that conversation earlier this week about Jalen Hurts playing his game versus what the team wants to do versus what the plan is. But who cares? Who gives a rip when you're 8-2? Stop worrying about not getting the catches that you want, not being targeted as many times as you want. Just go out there and win football games. Shut up and accept your rings when you win trophies. It's such a weird story to come out of a locker room when a team is as good as they are. Of course, you got the Steelers on the road at the Bears, two really good football teams. So proud of Caleb Williams and the way he has reversed course from last year. All it takes is a new head football coach. The right coach can really change things for an NFL team. When we come back, let's do this. Let's change gears just a little bit back to the college game. I want you, Tolos, to keep getting me your upset picks. Going to make a push for that next. Not the absolute best weekend for college football this weekend. It's just not. All the best teams are playing a sacrificial lamb before they go into rivalry weekend. The Big Ten isn't quite doing this. There's still a few teams that are playing good quality opponents, but you got Charlotte taking on Georgia with a 43.5 point spread in this football game. You got Samford, FCS team with one win taking on the number 3 team in the country, Texas A&M. It's just I don't like doing this time of year. We all see it for what it is. You're taking a break for a week before you take on your big time opponents. The Big Ten has it right, still playing meaningful football this time of the year. Ohio State taking on a game, 5-5 Rutgers team. Let's see. We got some decent games in the SEC. Missouri, Oklahoma. I guess they couldn't get an FCS opponent for this weekend. You got Alabama taking on Eastern Illinois with a 50.5 point spread. Oh my God. I don't even know where Eastern Illinois plays their football. Oh, here they are. They are in the OVC Big South combo conference there. I'm surprised there's even a spread on this game. Typically you don't see spreads in FCS, FBS matchups, but some good games outside of the SEC this weekend. Southern Cal taking on Oregon. That's been a popular pick. My wife, FU Ashley, has taken that game. That one was worth, let's see, USC plus 10.5 against Oregon. I like it, but they're going on the road playing the number 7 team at their place. Going to be a tough one. We did have a Tolo yesterday take Syracuse over number 9 Notre Dame with a 36.5 point spread in that game. I don't think it's going to happen, but hey, I appreciate you taking the big swing, and I'm doing that this weekend. I'm taking a big swing with Coastal Carolina on the road at South Carolina. South Carolina, far, far more talent than Coastal Carolina has. Coastal has, a handful of guys that could play football at the SEC level. South Carolina, well, some Clemson fans would say South Carolina does too, only has a handful of guys that could play football at the SEC level. But you got an old school matchup in Texas, Arkansas, that one being played in Austin. There's also Michigan, Maryland just a shade under 500 at a 4-6 football team. Good game in the Big 12, TCU at number 23, Houston. That's one of those programs that is it's on a roller coaster, up and down every year. But I need your upset picks, Tolos. If you haven't gotten them to me yet, 844-326-3663, 844-FAN phone. Let's see, Rory in Spartanburg just gets in, and he is taking USC plus 10.5 over Oregon. So is Gus Mosley. I think Gus is the son of April. Correct me if I'm wrong, April. Message into the show, text into the show. April is taking Wisconsin plus 8.5 over Illinois. Also, the paterfamilias of that family, Dave Mosley. Dave has gotten in his upset pick, and Dave Mosley is going with Pitt at Georgia Tech. So it's Pitt plus 2.5 on the road at Georgia Tech. Dave, you got a good strategy here, man. Dave is way out in front. He is not taking any kind of risks at this point. He is trying to just add a little bit here and there, taking those 2.5, 3.5, 4.5 point spreads. It seems like Dave can smell the big time win in the upset picks challenge. No prizes, of course. You get a whole lot of nothing for winning this challenge, but we're working on that, trying to make sure that next year we can get you a big prize in this. But I want to remind you, Tolos, that there is no reason to back out on this thing. You keep playing in the upset picks challenge. You can jump in now, get a sense of what to do and how to operate in this thing for next year. You could also jump in and hit a couple of times, and you'd blow me out of the water because I'm sitting at 9 points, and I'm probably going to be at 8 points after this weekend because I, again, took Coastal Carolina to upset South Carolina. But jump in, still a lot to go. We got week 13 action. How many weeks of the upset picks challenge do we still have left? We got week 14, 15, and 16. plus this week. So 4 there. Then you got pre-Christmas bowls. So that's 4. You got pre-Christmas bowls, post-Christmas bowls, college football playoff opening round, and conference championship. So we still got 7 weeks of picks to go in this upset picks challenge. It is not a sprint. It is a marathon to try to win this thing. So I appreciate you Tolos getting your picks in. D-Fig, I see a Rory in Spartanburg. I got you Dave Mosley and JWE, J Tez, RJ, Eric B. Keep them coming. 844-326-3663. And April confirms Gus is their son. So, hey, there you go. That is a family that is kicking ass in this upset picks challenge. Keep them coming. When we come back, we are going to do something that is a little abnormal for us here on this show. It's not abnormal for us to talk to the play-by-play voice of the teams playing Clemson or South Carolina, but it's weird to call the play-by-play voice of Furman, Dan Scott, an enemy. He's not an enemy. We love Furman around here. We carry their football games. We carry their basketball games. And as a matter of fact, you could hear Dan Scott's call of Furman at Clemson on these airwaves tomorrow. We're going to have a little Frenemies segment with Dan Scott. So you're going to hear this. This was from yesterday in case you missed it. A little insight on maybe what Furman might have for Clemson in tomorrow's game. A little Frenemies segment with Dan Scott next. And a little update on what Dan was talking about there with those Troy Trojans. They just continued that road trip last night, lost in a stunner to Southern Cal 107-106 here in the studio. It just showed up on screen. The video, the highlight right there. A guy that played his basketball 2 years ago at Appalachian State is now at Southern Cal and hit that game winner against Troy. A phenomenal team that the Trojans have. So yeah, that bodes well for the Furman Paladins. Seems like they have a growing team that's building into themselves. Going to take a little time, but maybe that'll turn into a really good football team by the middle part of this season. When we come back, let's hear from the experts themselves. We'll hear some audio coming up in the very next segment from Josh Allen talking about the performance he had last night. Tough game for him. Audio from Dave Canales, from Bryce Young, from J.J. McCarthy, Aaron Rodgers, and more. All that next on the Fan Up States. Breaking news, Lane Kiffin is set to make a decision on where he'll be coaching next year, and he'll announce that in 8 days after the Egg Bowl. God, this is so Lane Kiffin. Trolling us, making people believe certain things, dropping little nuggets here and there. This was posted earlier, and Chris Phillips alluded to it earlier in the show. We're going to play that interview back at the 6:20 segment. But Lane Kiffin made his visit with the Ole Miss athletic director, the vice chancellor for intercollegiate athletics, Keith Carter. And he's going to announce what he's going to do after the Egg Bowl. So I do wonder if the outcome of the Egg Bowl and whether or not Ole Miss will make it to the college football playoff will be the deciding factor. Dewey says Lane Kiffin should be fired. For what, Dewey? For what? Why should Lane Kiffin be fired? 844 fan phone. Call in, text in, whatever you got to do. If you want to react to this breaking Lane Kiffin news, I'd love to hear what you think. Is he stringing him along? If Lane's decision to stay is what he's going to do, why not just make the announcement now? Why not say, hey, Ole Miss fans, you've supported me in the decision to come here, and I'm going to show the love right back, and I'm going to make the decision right here, right now, that I am going to stay. We're going to do this. This is a little risky because I don't have the opportunity to screen phone calls, but let's go to line number one because two calls are coming in at the same time. Call, are you there? Who is this?
This is Dewey.
Dewey. Okay, you said Lane Kiffin should be fired. Dewey says Lane Kiffin should be fired. Why, Dewey?
Because everything that Ole Miss has done for him, the players, they're going to go to the playoffs. They're playing good football.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been good for several years, and now Lane Kiffin is trying to go for something better. Florida ain't better. LSU ain't better. They're both crap programs. And Lane Kiffin's just playing games with Ole Miss, and Ole Miss should just move on for him. He's not loyal. He's not loyal to Ole Miss. That's not loyalty. And if he's going to dump the team because they don't make the playoffs, well, the team doesn't need him.
So, Dewey, let me ask you this question. Do you have a girlfriend, or have you ever had a girlfriend?
I used to have a girlfriend.
Oh, I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean to bring up a painful memory, but how do you think it would have gone, Dewey, if you told your girlfriend, hey, I think I might have a shot at that more attractive girl over there. So I'm going to tell you a week from now whether or not I want to stay with you, because I'm going to spend the next week flirting with her, get to know her a little bit better, and then in a week's time I'll decide who I want to be with. How do you think that would have gone over, Dewey?
Not too well. She would have slapped my head off and dumped me, and then probably went and beat up the other girl too. Like, who's that girl? Went and beat her up too.
Wow.
And that's what Ole Miss needs to do. Ole Miss needs to go ahead, get rid of Lane Kiffin, because if it ain't going to be this year, he's going to jump the ship. He might go to South Carolina when Shane Beamer's fired next year. It's just a game to him. Oh.
Yeah, thank you, Dewey. Appreciate the phone call. It's ridiculous for this thing to take this amount of time. I'm not sure I understand why they're going to announce this and then say, wait a week. For a guy that's, he's been really good at Ole Miss, been really good at a couple of stops in a row. I get the sweepstakes for what he could be, but all this is based on potential of what Lane Kiffin could be. Let's go to line number 2. Caller, who's this?
This is Tom.
Hey, Tom.
And let me start by saying this. I don't agree with anything Dewey just said.
Oh.
And here's my take on it, okay? If you are Ole Miss, why would you want to give LSU or Florida, especially LSU, any sort of gain from this if he by chance, if he's already told LSU and Florida no, right, or considering telling them no, nothing official to either one of them yet, why would you give them that advantage of moving on to the next guy? Drag this out as long as you can. And the fact that they came out this afternoon and said that he is going to coach the Egg Bowl, he's not leaving Ole Miss. This is classic Lane Kiffin. He's going to get more money at Ole Miss. He's going to put LSU and Florida in a tight spot for as long as he can, just to crush their souls. I mean, let's be honest. Kiffin has been that, especially 10 years ago, 15 years ago, he was that guy that would absolutely make that jump. And granted, it's Florida and LSU. 99% of college football coaches would seriously consider those two jobs. But at the same time, you know, he's got it made at Ole Miss. He can go 9-3 every year and not worry about getting fired. Whereas, you know, Brian Kelly just did that. He went 9-3, 10-2, and got fired. So why would you make that jump when you have it made?
That's a good point.
He's going to have the same amount of money. He's going to have as many resources as 95% of schools in college football. So let the game continue. Just toll with LSU and Florida for as long as you possibly can. Then at the right time, make the obvious announcement that he's coming back, because you don't make that announcement, in my opinion, today if he is leaving, because you don't let him coach the Egg Bowl.
Yeah, and hey, maybe Ole Miss is asking him to slow roll this thing a little bit, right? Slow it down, Lane. Let's see if they get twitchy and just go ahead and make another hire, which eliminates a possible suitor for you. I mean, I still think the world of John Summerall. I don't know if he's on the caliber of getting the LSU or the Florida job right now, but at least a couple of more schools are going to hire somebody because they feel like we got to get somebody out there on the recruiting trail immediately rather than, you know, forcing them to make this decision quickly. Now, Ole Miss has already said, hey, we're going to pay you whatever they are, right? So it's not a money thing. It's not like he's jumping from 8.5 to go get 9.5, $10 million. Like Ole Miss has already said, we're going to match whatever LSU or Florida throw at you. Maybe Ole Miss is saying, hey, give us some time to come up with another $10 million of NIL money for you for next year. Because correct me if I'm wrong, I would imagine all those bow tie wearing Ole Miss undergrads turn into rich kids with a lot of money who could throw some NIL at them.
Yeah, Ole Miss has got money. Any SEC fan base has got money. Now, obviously, LSU and Florida have the most money, but you know, I don't know. I don't believe he's leaving. I think this is just a total play on Kiffin's part to get the raise. And the other thing you got to take into consideration here, if you're Ole Miss, is they still have to have the executive board meeting to approve an extension or a new contract on Lane Kiffin. And with this week being the week it is, nobody's going to go into a meeting before Thanksgiving. So you delay it, you do it early, or you probably do it, you know, next week, Friday. You can do that virtually, or even possibly wait till Monday and then, you know, make the announcement there very quickly. I don't believe he's leaving. I've never thought this was legit.
I think it's the smartest play is to stay where you are. You got everything you need to make the college football playoff. Didn't happen for him last year, but it really looks like it's going to happen for him this year. And like I said, the money is there. I don't see why you make the switch. Tom, have you gotten us your upset pick yet?
I texted the show. Virginia Tech was my upset pick.
You did. Okay. Yes, you did. I got you. I got your pick. I found it. All right. There you go.
Well, the other thing I want to say real quick, you know, I'm driving around Somerville tonight or earlier today. I had to go over into Charleston, and I kept seeing all these people in orange on the side of the road picking up trash. So I thought it was that time of the month. They come around and pick up trash. And then I realized it's just a bunch of Clemson fans trying to find the basketball game in downtown Charleston tonight. So, you know, I pointed them in the other direction. I said, go to 26 and head north. And when you see that sign that says Columbia, you've reached your destination. So hopefully they made it.
I love it. Thanks, Tom. Appreciate you. There you go. Clemson taking on West Virginia tonight in Charleston, by the way. Should be a pretty good basketball game. West Virginia 5-0, Clemson 4-1. Neither one of them has played a murderer's row schedule to this point. But Tom in Somerville gets his upset pick in. Virginia Tech plus 18.5 over Miami. Tolos, keep yours coming at 844-FAN phone. Want to hear some audio from around the sports world. If you didn't watch Thursday night football last night, the Bills, despite giving up 8 sacks and 2 interceptions, and just an awful performance for the most part for that offensive line, and Josh Allen too, really. They had a shot. It was kept alive on this hook and lateral. You don't see that very often in the NFL. Here's what that sounded like. Hang on. Let's see if we can get that hook and lateral audio. Let's back that up. Play it again. Here we go.
4-man rush again with a spy. And then you got a lateral, and it's going to be inside Texas territory with Shakir.
I don't see why we don't see this more often in the NFL. Again, I want to see the professionals out there playing backyard football. Here was Josh Allen talking about the Texans defense that was swarming all over him all game long.
I'll have to watch it on film. I feel like they were doing a few different stunts. They had a good plan, and we gotta play better.
Oh, they had a few stunts. They pounded me into the turf again and again and again and again and again and again and again. So, Josh, call out your offensive line, would you? I don't like these players that are always so nice, so deferential. Call them out. Like, you guys are getting me killed back here. I need some help, okay? I shouldn't have thrown those 2 picks. Now, one of them wasn't his fault. It was a tip ball, and it's going to go against his record, but I don't think that's a fair interception to call on it. Here was the opposing quarterback, somebody you probably never heard this name before. If you have, it's been a while. Davis Mills, who was playing quarterback last night for the Texans, on not getting sacked at all.
Taking 0 sacks, I can assure you that my body feels drastically better than it has in some other games and in my football playing history. Those guys did a hell of a job tonight protecting, and I was able to find people open or get the ball out if I needed to early on. But yeah, I think our offensive line has shown to get better each and every week. And I think those guys are going to keep progressing as we keep going forward.
Davis, who? Davis Mills, 3rd round draft pick out of Stanford in 2021. Most of you probably have never heard that name before or haven't watched. Who was watching Stanford football 4 years ago? Nobody was watching that. Here's some audio from Bryce Young on what it was like to win the NFC Offensive Player of the Week. I'll admit here the audio is a little bit difficult to understand because, nobody apparently in Charlotte puts a professional, high-quality microphone in front of these players' faces. We're picking up audio from a cell phone that was left running across the street and recording audio. So here was Bryce Young on what it was like to win Offensive Player of the Week.
Definitely a blessing. Don't take it for granted. But yeah, on to San Francisco. It's going to take everything this week. All that is going to be nothing when we go out there.
All that's going to mean nothing. Winning Offensive Player of the Week means nothing. It's on to San Francisco. I appreciate that from Bryce Young. He's even keel no matter what. When he's up, when he's down, he's going to sound like the same guy. Here's head coach Dave Canales on the challenge they're going to facing a former Carolina Panther in Christian McCaffrey.
You have to respect the variety of routes that he can run from the backfield and split out. He's got a pretty developed route tree out there. From a run game standpoint, it's going to require just good team fits, good team football, and rallying to tackle. We know that he can make moves and make miss at times, so we respect all those things. But again, it's going to come down to our fundamental execution and just being aware of the different route tree that they can present when he's out wide or when they scout him out.
There you go. You got to respect a guy like Christian McCaffrey. I think this is the first matchup. Is this the first matchup between the 49ers with Christian McCaffrey and the Carolina Panthers since trading him? I think that's right. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. Joe Burrow has apparently been practicing this week for the Cincinnati Bengals. They have been just flat out awful since he got hurt and went down. They've had to go to a backup. Let's hear T. Higgins, who says there's a couple different questions and answers baked into the same audio clip, but he seems to think maybe Joe Burrow is going to play.
Joe's been looking good. I mean, he looked good last week when he was practicing. I'm happy for him. You know what I mean? Just to get his feet back wet, and it's been good.
Would you be surprised? Or are you expecting him to play Sunday?
I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know. I asked him yesterday, and he just looked at me like this. But I don't know. So I guess only he knows.
The way he's practicing, does he look like a guy that could play on Sunday?
For sure. Yeah, he's practicing like he was week 1. So
that look that he gave you, I don't know. I guess it
I
could
don't
go.
know what that look meant, but I assume good.
Well, if you look good throwing the past couple of days, that's good.
And Joe's been looking outstanding, man. He's slinging it deep, short routes. Everything's been pretty good.
Anything's better than Joe Flacco, who has been just buns this year. I mean, who's surprised? Joe's 84 years old. He's not been good. 14 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, and a QBR of 46.4 this season. Come on, Joe. Joe, it's time to hang it up. Stop playing football. You're not good at this anymore. Let's hear some audio from J.J. McCarthy. This is an odd piece of audio, okay? J.J. McCarthy, I guess, is the new Russell Wilson in terms of just that annoying guy who's out there getting reps no matter what he's doing. Here's J.J. McCarthy on his attempt to get back as soon as possible.
I feel like, it's just the repetitions. How many times could I go home and every time I take the dogs out, I'm getting, 10 drops each time. Little things like that where you just keep building the reps.
Wait, what? I get reps when I'm taking the dog out? Imagine living in J.J. McCarthy's neighborhood and watching him try to walk the dog. How frustrated is that dog? The dog's just trying to walk down the sidewalk, and he's got his owner taking a 3-step drop 5, 10, 15 times during the walk. That must be frustrating as hell. Oh, come on, JJ. That's just as bad as Russell Wilson jogging up and down the aisle for the international flights. Just sit down for a while. It's going to be fine. Do some mental reps. How about that? Here's Aaron Rodgers on if there's any extra incentive to play this weekend in Chicago because of his former rivalry with the Bears back when he was a Green Bay Packer.
There's incentive for every opponent, but I have enjoyed many a Sunday and Monday and Thursdays in that city. It's a great sports town, phenomenal sports fans, and great place to play.
Do you sort of thrive off being the villain there a little bit? Sort of enjoy that?
I'd rather not be. I mean, I'm not in Green Bay anymore. I feel like we can let bygones be bygones. Maybe I can, I guess. It's a great rivalry. I mean, in the history of all sports, you talk about the Lakers and the Celtics, and the Red Sox and the Yankees. You got to talk about the Packers and the Bears. And there's been some great memories there. When I first got to Green Bay, the Bears had the all-time series lead. When I left, the Packers did. Since J. Love has taken over, it's even gotten better. But I hope those fans can put that behind them. I'm sure they can. Don't expect them to, but I really enjoy the city. They got great sports fans. I grew up watching WGN on my five channel TV back in the day. So I was a Cubs fan and a Bulls fan. How can I be a Bulls fan unless you don't like Michael Jordan? I did. I love them. So it was a lot of fun memories over the years playing there.
Wait, is he buttering him up? Is he talking trash? He's this way, he's that way, he's left, he's right, he's up, he's down, he's zigging, he's zagging. Come on, Aaron. I don't want there to be any hard feelings. I'm not a Packer anymore, but the Packers are walking away with the lead in the series, and Jordan Love's doing a great job. But I also grew up watching Chicago, and I was a big fan of the Bulls. Come on, man. Pick a lane, would you, Aaron? Pick a lane. Here we go. One final audio clip for you. Actually, that's not the final audio clip. I've got one more after this. This is an interesting piece of audio. Nothing political meant out of this, but President Trump attended an NFL game last week. First time a sitting president has attended a game since, I think it was Gerald Ford was the last sitting president who attended an NFL game. Well, Donald Trump's been a little critical of the new kickoff rules. And here's some audio from Kansas City Chiefs special teams coordinator Dave Taub on Trump not liking the kickoff rules as they currently stand.
The president criticized the new kickoff rules when he was at the Washington game. What's your reaction?
He doesn't even know what he's looking at. He has no idea what's going on with the kickoff rule. So I'm going to take that for what it's worth. I hope he hears it.
Oh. Special teams coordinator saying, hey, Donnie, stay in your lane. You're out of your depth here. You're out of your depth, Donnie. Let's go. One more piece of audio. This is Brett Bielema now of course, at Illinois. He's upsetting Shane Beamer whenever he gets a chance. He's talking about here just how tough it is on the modern college athlete as they are constantly changing rules with the transfer portal and NIL and all these different things. I get it. We're in a period of transition. Hopefully, we're in that state when things have gotten really crazy. And now we're trying to implement some rules. It's not going to be cut and dry. We have everything figured out all at once. But here is a little taste of Brett Bielema.
This world that we're in college football, that's what's kind of, I think, got everybody on pins. It's just an unprecedented time. These rules are changing literally. So a coach that got let go, right? So we had a player that's in the portal that was one of the first coaches that was transitioned from earlier in the year. And because of that timing, the rule in place then was that kid could get in the portal immediately and begin to take visits, right? So he was able to do that. But then a group of players that were on a team that got let go like 4 weeks later, the rule changed in a 4-week window where those players couldn't get in the portal anymore. They could only get in once their new coach is named. So I think that's why you probably saw this big pause. He's are sitting there, hey, they whacked the guy, right? But now, if they bring a new guy in, then those coaches, those kids have an opportunity to get in the portal sooner than everybody. Now, because the portal window doesn't start this year until January 2nd, those kids that can get into the new transition, they're coming ahead of all of those other portal kids. So they'll have higher ceilings for their revenue share, what people are going to pay them. Like there's this.
Look, I know that Brett is a player's coach and he's trying to be a player's coach here in this scenario. And obviously he knows infinitely more about football than I'll ever know, but I love the new rule change to where a player can enter the transfer portal a week after a new coach is announced, right? So now that new coach has an opportunity to try at least to re-recruit a roster and keep some guys around. Most of them are going to go off and enter the transfer portal anyway. It just is what it is. Some of them were just going to, even if the same coach stuck around, some of them were going to go off into the portal. But coach here doesn't like the fact that, well, a guy that got to take advantage of the old rule where as soon as his coach was fired, they can enter the portal. A month later, the same kid, those kids whose coaches got fired, they don't get that same opportunity. There's always a transition period. There's always some growing pains to getting this thing right. But I hope that we are trending and moving in the right direction. When we come back, a very short segment. Maybe we'll get to this in the next segment. Do you have any rules for Christmas gifts? That's coming up. People got to start thinking about this. You can't wait until the middle of December to do all your Christmas shopping. Do you have any rules in your house for Christmas gift giving? That's next. Pivoting to some more breaking news. This just released about 20 minutes ago or so. The NCAA and athletic department staff will not be allowed to bet on professional sports. Remember, there was that rule change proposed 3 weeks ago, a month ago or so, that would have allowed NCAA players and personnel to start gambling on professional sports. They had been prohibited from gambling at all prior to that proposed rule change. And then they said, hey, maybe if we let them bet on NFL and NBA and Major League Baseball and whatever else, they won't want to bet on college sports, which we're still not going to allow them to do. And then Greg Sankey, of course, came out and very rightly said, hey, if you open up that shell, we're going to have a lot of problems. That is Pandora's box. You should not be opening that, especially because these guys still have contacts in the NBA, in the NFL, with players that they played with coaches that they've coached with. This was a bad idea on behalf of the NCAA. Well, it seems now that that is not going to be allowed at all. People have come to their senses until the student athlete sues, and maybe this rule gets overturned in the future. Don't know, but that is some breaking news that just came out about 25 minutes ago or so. Going to get deep into the weeds, the conversation about the South Carolina Gamecocks, what is going to motivate them now that their season is essentially over. They got Coastal Carolina coming up tomorrow, Clemson a week from now, both of those home games. But what are the South Carolina Gamecocks going to be motivated by, and is it enough to get them over the hump against the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers, who are coming in with an opportunity to shock the state? We'll get into that topic with Smitty of Sports Talk Media Network next on the Fan Upstate